Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of Estate Planning TV. I'm your host, Christopher Small. I'm the owner of CMS Law Firm, and this is the internet's passionate show about estate planning. Welcome. I'm excited to be talking to you today about this stuff. It's a conversation that I have with the client yesterday. It's a conversation that I have with clients often, and it centers around, as the title of the video suggests, how to set up the distribution standards and schedules for your kids, right? This is assuming that you pass away. You now have this trust that's holding your assets for their benefit. And the question becomes, how do you set it up so that they can use the money and have access to the money when they need it, but that they don't blow it in most cases? And some of you don't care about that. That's okay. We'll talk about each of the different ways that you can set up your trust distributions, and it will really account for almost every kind of situation that you could think of. All right, I think there are really pretty much five different ways that you can set this up to do it. And again, it really depends on your family dynamic, sort of your own personal philosophy when it comes to money, your own personal values when it comes to money, and your kids, right? Whether or not you think they can handle it or not. So let's just sort of run through these, and we'll talk about some of the sort of the benefits and the consequences of each choice, and we'll go from there. To back up though real quick, let's assume for purposes of this conversation that what's really happened is you as the parents, when you created your estate plan, you created a revocable living trust so that while you were alive, you could have access to all of your assets. You could do whatever you want. You could change the terms of the trust. But once the last of you passed away, then the trust becomes irrevocable for the benefit of your kids or other beneficiaries. I guess in this instance, we're talking about kids. And then you get to set the distribution schedule for the assets within the trust, and the kids don't. Okay? I will tell you the benefits of doing this are that the money in the trust is often protected for the children. It's protected against bankruptcy. It's protected against things like alcohol addiction, drug addiction, gambling, bad business, right? It's protected against lawsuits. It's protected against divorce, right? A lot of protections with a trust once the last of you passes away, and then it's held for the kids. So something to consider, and that's why the way that you do these distributions is going to make a big difference depending on your personal philosophies. So number one, the first thing that you can do is you can just do a straight up outright distribution, right? You can just say, look, when we die, the kids get the money, right? That is fine. Again, what you lose with that is essentially all of these protections that I just mentioned, right? They're owned. The assets are now owned by the kids. They can be attached by creditors. If they commingle the funds with their spouse, they could potentially be up for grabs in a divorce. So all of these things are kind of in play if you do that. Now, some of you might be thinking, why would I even do a trust if I wanted to just do an outright distribution? Why not avoid the trust and just do a will? What you get with the trust is you get probate avoidance, essentially, right? So you don't have to go through the headache of a probate. The assets are still owned by the trust when you pass away, and the distributions can just happen typically faster and sort of smoother if you do it this way. All right, so that's option number one. Option number two is you could have distributions on a set schedule according to age. A lot of my clients do this. So what they'll say is something like, until the kids turn 25, the funds and the assets are to be held in trust and only distributed for health, maintenance, support, education, right? So up until they're 25, it's discretionary trust. The trustee can allocate funds for these things, but other than that, the kids don't have access to any of the money outright. Once they turn 25, then they can access up to a third of the funds themselves. Literally, they just write a letter to the trustee. They say, I want a third of my pot. Check gets cashed, right? Another third comes at 30, and another third comes at 35, right? There are sort of two sub-ways that you can do this distribution as well. I've done it written in both ways. The first way that it can happen is at 25, the trustee is directed to give a third of the funds to the beneficiary. So at 25, the trustee literally just writes a check to that person. The other way to do it is at 25, the beneficiary has access to the trust funds if they request them in writing. What's great about this is if you educate your kids beforehand, you can let them know, like at 25, you're going to have access to a third, but I would highly encourage you to just leave it in the trust. Let it continue to grow. Let it continue to keep all of those safety provisions that it has, right? Protection against bankruptcy, divorce, all of these things, right? While the money's in the trust, it's safe. That's sort of the second sub-way that you could set this distribution schedule up. All right. A lot of people choose this. It makes them feel good because they know that there's some oversight over the funds, over the assets, as the kids have an opportunity to mature, right, and learn about the money, know they have this money, but also sort of deal with it and think about how they can use it in a good way. So that's option number 2. Option number 3 is what is referred to in the legal biz as a unitrust. What a unitrust really does is just says every year the beneficiary is going to get X percent of the trust. Just boom, a check is going to get sent to them. I've drawn them up where they're like 5% of the trust, 10%. It just depends on whatever you want to do. But that way, people like the idea of some of the money being just given out to their kids. They can use it for whatever they want. The rest of the trust remains for support, health, maintenance, education, but there's some money that's just actively going out. Right? Again, there's no right or wrong answer here other than what you want to do for your family. But again, once that money is sent out, it loses some of that protection. That is the 4th way, I think. The 5th way and the final way is to really do what really falls into sort of the pure discretionary or the dynasty kind of a trust setup. It's not necessarily a true dynasty trust. Like, we won't get into that. But the idea is that the funds are just held in trust forever. If they're needed for these things, they can be distributed. Support, health, maintenance, education. They're there to be used and to be utilized and to be distributed. But otherwise, the goal and the idea is to keep these assets around in trust for future generations as well, to allow the family and future generations to have additional access to opportunity, right? One of the great things about estate planning, if you approach it from this standpoint, if it's important to you, is you have the ability to sort of set future generations up to pursue their passions, to pursue what they're good at, without having money really come in to play as a barrier to them. If you have a good athlete and you want to get them into a good coach, right, or a good school, or they want to travel and participate in their sport, then you can do that. If you have a good musician, again, you can get them in the right place so they can have access to the right teachers and the right instruments and all that kind of stuff. If they have a business idea that they want to start, you can provide that seed capital for that. So it's all these kind of different things, in addition to just being able to go to a good school and not really having to worry about piling up a ton of student debt, right, which is a huge problem right now for people. So that's kind of the last option. It's probably one of the least used options, but that's because it's not right for those people. So it's really up to you what you want to use, but those are kind of the 5 typical ways that trust distributions to beneficiaries can be set up. How you want to do it really depends on your specific personal situation. I always kind of talk to and walk my clients through all the different outcomes, because with their family and their assets, it may make a difference on what they want to do, but at the end of the day, the choice is yours. Now you are armed with the information to make a good, informed choice, and the next step is really just to make sure that you do the things that you need to do to actually put this in place, to create your plan, right? So maybe you'll call us to do that. I would love that. 206-659-1512. You can email me, Chris@cmslawfirm.com. If you have comments, questions, you can always write them in below. You can send me an email. You can call, anything that you want. Again, if you need some help like this, I would love to have an opportunity to talk to you and see if we're a good fit. If not, that's okay too. This information is just here to be helpful, right? So that is it. Have a great day, great week, great month, great year, a great everything. And I will be here again next week or next episode, just like always. All right. So thank you for your time and have a great, great day.